Okay, so this is the Muncie AMC this time around. I am going to go in and see Superman, James Gunn's Superman. I wanted to kind of avoid, I heard it's quite polarizing, that there's people are kind of really mixed on it, but who knows? I'm going to go in, I'll give you my thoughts about it. Seeing it in the regular format, not doing IMAX, like I said, I kind of wanted to wait until like all the hype had died down. So it's still going to be a decent presentation. I just not on the giant screen, but gotta go in, gotta go get my food, and then I'll catch you later. Okay, so Superman for 2025, directed by James Gunn as a part of DC Studios. Yeah, when the film opens up, it opens up with DC Studios. It does not open up with Warner Brothers Pictures. But at the tail end, it does say distributed by Warner Brothers. Okay, so there was things I thought were really good, and then there was things that just drove me crazy in this movie. The least of it being about the whole alien thing and how people are tying that into politics, and come on, let's back off a little bit there, because if you are a diehard Superman fan, you know that Superman is an alien. He does not come from the United States. He does not even come from the planet Earth. He comes from the planet Krypton. Okay, so he's not a resident of anything except made his home by his biological parents, planet Earth, Kansas. And so, yeah, I thought that the audience made that something that it's not out to be. However, I thought David Cornswet, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name, and Rachel Brosnahan, I hope I'm pronouncing these names. I'm really not familiar with these actors. These are newer actors to me. So, I thought they did pretty well as Superman / Clark Kent and Lois Lane. I thought they did very well. The one thing about them I thought was interesting but kind of jarring was they did something that Superman would not do, but however, if you're going back to the original, well, I'm referring to as the original, the Richard Donner / Alexander Salkind version of the films, you know, with the whole romantic relationship with Lois Lane and Superman. Okay, so what they establish right off the bat is that Clark Kent and Lois Lane are dating, and he has already revealed to her that he is Superman, because they do there's a scene in the film when they do this mock interview where she basically records an interview with Superman, because she finds it kind of strange that how Clark is always getting an exclusive interview with Superman. Why doesn't Lois Lane get a Superman interview? Didn't we see that in the original in the original Richard Donner film. She got the exclusive, but for some reason they're not really hiding his identity very well. It's only however, somehow a handful of people know Clark Kent is Superman, including Luthor Corp. Wouldn't that be dangerous? Oh, come on. So that's some of the nitpicky things I thought was a little, I didn't really care for, okay? Because too much of Superman's identity was out there. Now, and they even do a thing that is so, that's later on in explaining that, now it's sinking into me how ridiculous this is. They established that there's something in the glasses that causes a holographic thing to, like, when he wears the glasses as Clark Kent in other people's mind, it changes the appearance of what he looks like. I mean, oh, come on. It's just, oh my gosh. I think that's just, well, the overall ridiculous of glasses on, glasses off, she can't tell the difference is enough. But they had to put in something like, well, that the glasses were specially made. Every time he wears them, it changes the appearance to everybody else. So it like creates this, it fools with everybody's mind. Oh boy. But now for the audience, I think we're going a little too far-fetched with the whole political thing of Superman. Yeah, I think that's gone a little far-fetched, and deporting him. And they put in this whole subtext, like, because we know that when Superman was sent to Earth by Jor-El in this film is played by Bradley Cooper, and just in a holographic cameo. So Lex Luthor has a team of specialists, as well as genetically engineered people who can manipulate things. They translate what is said in the message, because they show that the message they only play half the message at the beginning of the film, and then it glitches out. The holographic message glitches out, and then but somehow Lex Luthor is able to figure it out that the whole thing is that there's another half to the message, and then translates it because it's in Kryptonian language. When he translates it, they hear things like, "You will be the ruler of all mankind. You will be this, that." So like they're taking what would be like, you will be, so like if, so like I'll use this as an example, because the allegorical stuff of Superman is there's definitely Judeo-Christian themes that were incorporated over time of in the lore of Superman. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who created Superman, okay, they were Jewish kids, and they were bullied in their childhood. A little bit of backstory here. They were bullied, so they thought that they would create this character modeled after Moses. So think about what's going on there. Baby Moses was put into a basket, sent down the river, and found in the bulrushes by Pharaoh. Okay, that's what that's symbolic of. So they took that symbolism of Jorel, God, or Moses' parents, putting Kal-El into a ship, sending him to planet Earth. That's symbolic of Moses. Well, I'm going to go by Cecil B. DeMille. Amram and Yoshabel, Moses' parents, putting Moses in the basket, sending him down the Nile, and is found in the bulrushes and adopted. So Jor-El and his wife put Kal-El in a spaceship as a baby. He's sent to planet Earth, where he is adopted into a family from Kansas, Jonathan and Martha Kent. So he's raised, and so they also have that into the film, which I thought was kind of a sweet thing, that, you know, about the whole adoption thing, where, because you get that, you definitely get that, where Jonathan Kent comes and he sits behind, because there's a point where, you know, this happens in all the superhero movies where the hero has to sit down and kind of refigure out who he is. And so Jonathan, who's his earthly father, earthly dad, just sits on the porch swing and says, "You know what, son? I'm proud of you. I love you, and I'm proud of you. I don't care if you're adopted or if you're biological. Every child needs to hear that from their father. I love you, and I'm proud of you." And so you get that, definitely the whole thing with that. Now, I thought that was, but they're able to decrypt it, like, so what I'm getting at is, like, okay, if we took the whole God sending Jesus Christ to earth to die for our sins, being our Savior, so because over time, DC Comics, well, we can't say this, we have to put in this other stuff, so we have to incorporate a little bit of Christianity into the story, and so you could relate it and say that God sending Jesus, you know, there's allegorical things there, and so that, you know, so that is there as well. But it shows, like, in modern day, if God was to send Jesus today to be born in flesh, like, okay, he chose a virgin woman for to birth his son. All that happens, and he grows up, and that will be ruler of all. Well, in the Bible, it did happen back then. It did happen. That's why he was persecuted and hung on a cross. And he was mocked by the authorities at the time. But also, what they do is they incorporate the social media aspect, how fast the whole world would see, okay, this person's a traitor, this person's this person's that, and look how fast social media travels. I mean, you could easily demonize somebody with just a click of a button, and they show how fast it happens. I do think it's kind of funny that they also show that Lex Luthor has monkeys that do that. In case the people don't do it fast enough, he has trained monkeys, literally trained monkeys to do that. Okay, so Now, here's a gripe. Lex Luthor here is played by Nicholas Hoult. I had problems with his performance. It was a little too Tom Cruise-y. So I was wondering, was this Nicholas Hoult impersonating Tom Cruise playing Lex Luthor? Or was this, or could you easily swap out Nicholas Hoult for Tom Cruise? Because it seemed like this was Tom Cruise, Tropic Thunder-ish type of Lex Luthor, like if Tom Cruise played Lex Luthor. That's what I kind of saw, because he kind of had that, that when Tom Cruise is really frustrated, that how he gets, that he kind of says it at the front of his teeth, that he has those wide eyes, and then that he's just building that frustration and finally lets it loose. Okay, that's my impersonation of Tom Cruise playing a villain, but I could have easily seen Tom Cruise play Lex Luthor in this adaptation. It kind of drove me crazy at times, but at the same time, Tom Cruise would have been too old. But in terms of age, he doesn't look it, but in terms of age, he would have been too old. So, and then you have the final battle at the end of the film, where while your worst enemy, basically it's depicting that your worst enemy is yourself. No wonder. So, yeah. So, I thought, really, we've seen that before. And so you basically have to outsmart your clone. Yeah. But yeah, this wasn't a terrible movie, but man, did I have some issues with it. They could have done a lot better with this. I'm not saying bring back the Snyderverse. Like, there's people actually chanting bring back the Snyderverse, but I thought Man of Steel was a very underrated film. At the time, people were trashing Man of Steel. They really did trash Man of Steel. They didn't think it was good enough. I thought it was. I thought it was very underrated. Now, again, I had some issues with that movie, but it just went downhill from there. That's why I think Henry Cavill was a very, very good Superman. He was just in some bad movies. They didn't give him good movies. This Superman, I don't think he's bad, but I'm sorry. James Gunn, definitely, he's worked. Obviously, he has come from both Marvel, and he's done The Peacemaker, and he did the Suicide Squad second time around. I just think that DC just needs to worry about being faithful to their characters, faithful to their story that they're trying to tell, and not trying to copy what's going on the other side of the fence with Marvel. Marvel figured out what to do, but now they're kind of falling off the deep end with woke issues. That doesn't mean that you, DC, Warner Brothers need to do the same thing. I did think that it was positive to incorporate, you know, the more lightheartedness of a comic book adventure, but it still lacked, and this is what Donner figured out a long time ago. Richard Donner figured this out a long time ago with 1978 Superman the movie. He made it with verisimilitude. Let me read to you what the definition of verisimilitude is. It is the appearance of being true or real. And it's a Latin word. The appearance of being true or real. And Crypto, did he really need the sidekick? Did he really need the sidekick of Crypto? And then you find out at the end of the film that Crypto doesn't belong to Superman. He belongs to Kara Zor-El, who's Supergirl. And I thought that was another thing. Her appearance, I would have liked to have seen more of her, but I did not want to see her as the young adult drunk and saying that she likes to party at on these other planets, and she gets a different type of sun radiation and she comes across as being intoxicated. I think Supergirl is a little bit more strong-willed than that, than just to give in to partying all the time. I'm sure we know that she's just, when she's not Supergirl, she's a regular girl, Kara. So when she's Kara, she's just a regular girl, you know. And I don't think that she just wants to party all the time like that. And also, Ava Tessmacher. Oh, jeez. Or Eve, I'm sorry, Eve. I said Ava, but it's Eve Tessmacher. She's always kind of been the ditzy chick. And so, even in the 1978 film, she was kind of the cute, dumb, blonde chick. Here she's played by, who is it? Oh, come on now. Sarah Sempero. But anyway, this young actress. I thought she did a good job, but the depiction of her character is very much, she likes to take a lot of selfies. And I'm looking at the age of the actress. Okay, it seems to be that she's maybe a little old to be taking selfies, but it's crucial to the plot of the story that she's going to help. She's going to help Superman's friends help Superman. So I don't know how to pronounce her. Again, these young actors and actresses, I think they're people that are just now finding their way into big movies. They've been in smaller movies. So please forgive me. I know I claim to be a movie buff, but don't really know who these people are. I know, like Nicholas Hoult, I've seen him in a ton of things, but like there's a lot of people who I have not. They maybe have been in TV shows or smaller movies that I've never seen yet. So I do apologize if I'm getting names, but Eve Tessmacher, that character has been there definitely since 1978. It's supposed to be Lex Luthor's girlfriend, but she's got a boyfriend on the side. I'm not going to say who that is, but yeah, and you definitely get the the news commentary as well as the social media aspect. But remember, I said Richard Donner figured this out a long time ago. Verisimilitude, the appearance of being true or real. So, and that's a difficult thing to pull off. It is. Crypto the dog, that was totally unbelievable altogether, because it's obvious that Crypto is a computer generated animated dog. And I think there's moments where you could tell they used a real dog, but mostly it's computer generated fun. And whether Crypto was animated by Weta or ILM, there was 3 visual effects houses that were credited: Weta Effects, Industrial Light and Magic, and Frame Store. So those are pretty much the big visual effects companies all working on Superman. So now they did a fine job, but it's first of all, CGI is a tool, folks. It is a tool, and there's a lot of people who love and work in that industry. I mean, good grief. The documentaries being made on the documentaries that have been made on ILM alone have been just not only insightful, but remember that these are people who work for these companies, and it's their livelihood. That was their dream. That was their livelihood, to pursue careers in visual effects. And it's behind, a lot of times it's behind a computer desk and a computer screen, clicking on mouses and keyboards to bring imagery to life. But again, verisimilitude. I think if you applied that to every film, you'd be amazed, I think, what you would see. Now, that being said, I loved, and I thought it was sweet to hear little samples. They don't copy it verbatim, but little samples of John Williams' original theme in this movie. And they do, and the composers of this film do come up with a theme that's very, very similar to what John Williams came up with. Now, it's not exact, but it's in the same tone and the same vibe as what John Williams created. But then also the title sequences is like paying homage to the original Richard Donner film with the streaking graphics across the screen. But yeah, it was just nice to hear that. Ba, 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 ba. Occasionally, they don't do it throughout, but occasionally they do that ba, 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 which is John Williams' theme that he wrote for Superman in 1978. So, am I thumbs up or thumbs down on 2025 Superman, directed by James Gunn? I'm right here, okay?
it's very problematic, but the heart is, I think the heart is there. Yeah, definitely the heart is there. I think no, it's not as pro-patriotic as we expect it to be, or has been in the past. But Richard Donner said, you know, definitely he wanted that patriotic thing of, you know, when definitely when you're in Smallville, Kansas, you got Ma and Pa and apple pie. What's more American than that? And there was definitely Ma and Pa, and I'm sure there may have been a slice of apple pie served. I don't know. You didn't see too long of there was the consuming of the Superman eating cereal. You know, we do eat cereal here in America, but definitely the deeper message is, who are you? But just maybe we're getting, us as an audience, we get a little far-fetched into some things, and just we go a little crazy. I do that. I had a discussion on Facebook with a friend of mine over slightly political discussion, and he's a little bit more cynical because he's not for Trump, nor is he against Trump. He's in the middle, and so, like, and that's fine. I mean, that is being American. You can be for somebody, you can be against somebody. But he was like comparing things to Orwell's 1984, and yeah, I can kind of see where he's coming from, and I can be a little cynical myself, and definitely I see things that are very 1984ish or Animal Farm-ish, you know. But that was Superman for 2025. Do check it out. I do think it's worth seeing. I did not see it in IMAX, but I don't think you really need to see it in IMAX just for extra spectacle. But it looked, even though what was shot in IMAX looked good on a regular movie theater screen, of course it goes back and forth. But yeah, I'm kind of there. It's very problematic, but I can't hate it. I think it yeah, I just think, who knows? I mean, they definitely have plans to go forward with other movies, but but verisimilitude, guys. Verisimilitude. That's all I'm going to say. So let's go on to the next feature. We're still in the middle of this summer movie camp, folks, so let's go on to the next one.
Okay, campers, it's movie time again. We went back to the theater. We're going to do The Naked Gun this time around. As you can see, celebrating, wearing my Paramount shirt and my Paramount hat because this is a Paramount release. I was a little apprehensive on this one, definitely, because we're going to go ahead and see it. I was apprehensive on what they're going to do to it, because I kept watching, what's this movie going to be rated? What's it going to be rated? And I was concerned that it was going to get the R rating because, well, first of all, it's Seth MacFarlane, and I don't think he is politically correct to an extent. He does go woke, but Family Guy does, everybody gets a punch, okay? So, and that's this is very much up his alley in terms of comedy. The other thing I'm apprehensive about is because the Zuckers were not involved. As a matter of fact, I can't remember which one, but he did an interview with somebody, and he's not very happy about this, the fact that it got made. Because he had, apparently the Zuckers had several years ago tried to reboot The Naked Gun, and Paramount had told them no, and multiple times they had pitched to Paramount, hey, we want to reboot The Naked Gun. We want to reboot The Naked Gun, but apparently it was a no-go. But Seth MacFarlane was the guy who could pull it off. And he's not happy about it because they had tried to do that. And second of all, they didn't even consult him. So, but yeah, we're going to go see it anyway. The running time for this movie is not real long. It's only going to be 1 hour and 25 minutes. But anyway, let's go in and check it out. From Paramount Pictures, 2025, The Naked Gun with Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson. So, you know it's already going to be funny.
Okay, so The Naked Gun 2025, produced by Seth MacFarlane, directed by Akiva Schaffer, starring Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson, Paul Walker Hauser, and Danny Houston. I was apprehensible walking into this because just seeing the name Seth MacFarlane attached to it, I thought it was going to be extremely raunchy and extremely dirty, with foul language and all that, and it really wasn't. They kept it the same exact tone that the Leslie Nielsen Zucker brothers films would be. It's in that same tone, and now, so anything that got, now I'm not going to say that there was not family-friendly jokes, because there was some dirty innuendo jokes in this film, but it was not. But it would be something that would be in the original Naked Gun movies as well. You've seen similar jokes in the Austin Powers movies, where stuff is done in like silhouette, and it's not what you think it is, but it looks dirty. So we have Liam Neeson playing Frank Drebin. Now, he's not Leslie Nielsen's character. He's Frank Drebin Jr. So it's not the same character. It's the same name, but just different character. As well as Paul Walker Hauser playing playing Ed Hawken. Okay, he's the son of George Kennedy's character from the movie. Now, Pamela Anderson, her character is completely original. It's not the daughter of Priscilla Presley, so that would be weird. But the whole thing is, the movie opens up with a bank robbery that's very, and this was shown in the trailers, and it's very much done in the same style as this bank robbery is done, very, very similar to The Dark Knight opens with a big bank robbery, and of course there's this, you see this little girl walk into the bank, and it turns out it's Liam Neeson, Frank Drebin, under a mask and wearing the short skirt with his underpants hanging out, but which, if you saw the trailer, you saw that scene. But the whole thing is that there's Danny Houston plays this character by the name of Richard Kane. He's kind of an Elon Musk type of character. He's this rich inventor, entrepreneur, and he's constantly creating gadgets. He's even created an electric car. But the whole thing is they are he's looking for he has murdered somebody to gain control of the plot device. Okay, and the plot device, what it eventually does is it causes people to it hijacks people's smartphones, iPhones and Androids, and causes them to beat the living daylights out of each other, because you see like men punching women, women punching men. It just goes. It looks absurd, and so that's the whole thing, is the world domination, and that when he calms them down, he'll take them into he'll hypnotize them and cause them to go into like a theater where they will be entertained until the end of time by Weird Al Yankovic. Because Weird Al was in every single Naked Gun movie, including this one. But this one, he's a little bit more central to the story. Very, very funny. It's very, very funny. It's very much in the same, like right up the alley with the Naked Gun movies, and it comfortably fits within. The only thing is I have against it is that they should have involved the Zookers. Maybe not let them direct, but have them involved. Have them serve as creative consultants or something like that. But but that aside, I think they did a very funny job of making a movie that fits comfortably within the space of the Naked Gun series. There's running jokes involving coffee cups, and of course they constantly make fun of like the rear projection or blue screen every time you're in a car. But yeah, it's definitely. There's definitely the Naked Gun stamp on it, and it's not. I was concerned that it was going to be over the edge, because I kept watching I kept seeing the previews that said this film's not yet rated. This film's not yet rated, and it wasn't until a week ago I finally saw PG-13. Like, oh, they finally put a PG-13 rating on it, and it's. There may be eventually, when it comes out to streaming and home video, there may be an unrated cut, but it's definitely what got released to theaters is very comfortable within that same category of the Naked Gun movies. Some of the other things in the film is that there's cameos from WWE superstars, Cody Rhodes, Dave Bautista's in it, and there's even jokes towards the old Naked Gun movies by because Liam Neeson consults Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen has passed away several years ago, and so like there's this shrine of all the actors who were in the original Naked Gun movies who are no longer alive, which is which is pretty much the main cast. George Kennedy's gone, Leslie Nielsen's gone, O.J. Simpson is gone. And there's even a joke directed towards O.J. Simpson's character where his son is like consulting with him, and the actor looks towards the camera and goes, "Nah, I don't think so." So I don't think I laughed as much at a movie in a long time, because I was laughing like every couple minutes. And it's not too long of a movie either. It's right at where it should be. 85 minutes. It's not too long. It's not too short. A movie like this needs to be something like that. 85 minutes to 90 minutes. No longer, no less. So it was definitely worth seeing, and it was fun. It was funny. Didn't hold back. It wasn't. Well, I shouldn't say it didn't hold back, but it didn't go R-rated territory. It didn't. Nor was it politically correct either. I mean, that's what I think is a big death towards comedy. It's been a death towards comedy movies, is political correctness. This movie was not politically correct. So it had no problem poking fun at itself. So it's worth seeing. Check it out. It's now playing in theaters. If you don't, I would say check it out anyway. It is definitely a fun, funny movie. You will not be disappointed. So, with that, let's go on to the next flick. Okay, so the next film we're going to take a look at is a indie film from the mid-1980s. Now, a lot of people they kind of scoff at independent films and like, it's not really a movie I've heard of, blah, 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 blah. But I thought this one compelled me. It just seemed interesting just by looking at the cover of it. So, as some people who are in the home video collecting community, recently the store Barnes & Noble had their 50% off the Criterion Collection titles. So I went up to the nearest Barnes & Noble and started perusing through their selection of Criterion Collection, and this one kind of caught my eye, and it's a film by Joyce Chopra called Smooth Talk from 1985, and it stars a young Laura Dern. This is 8 years before Jurassic Park, and Treat Williams. And it just caught my attention just by the cover. You know, you have Laura Dern and Treat Williams. I know who both of these actors are, and of course there's other people affiliated with this film, like Lee Von Helm, who is a famous actor and musician. James Taylor was involved, like the music direction of this. But I just thought, well, this looks interesting, so I'll pick this one up. So again, this was an independent film, which means that it's not necessarily that doesn't mean that the film is low budget or anything like that. What it means is that the people self-made the movie, and it was picked up by a film distributor. The film distributor originally was a company called Spectra Film, and so it has been, since the rights have been handed over to the Criterion Collection through their Janus Films distribution label. So from 1985, Treat Williams, Laura Dern, in a Joyce Chopra film Smooth Talk. Okay, so that was Smooth Talk from 1985, a little independent film that was has been acquired by the Criterion Collection by their through their Janus Films label. Originally, it was the British film company Goldcrest that co-financed the film, but it was an independent film here in the United States. But the film stars Treat Williams and Laura Dern. The story of this film centers around Connie, played by Laura Dern, and she is this 15-year-old girl who is... I'm trying to describe it. She's at the age where she's becoming well aware of her feelings and emotions, and so she's out looking for boys and guys at the mall, and so it's trying to try to attract that attention, right? And but then one day she comes across this man played by Treat Williams, calls himself Arnold Friend. And we don't know what Arnold's intentions are or what he does, but there's something definitely off about Arnold. So this film has two sides to it. One is that it's very much this coming of age story about this young girl who's dealing with her feelings, and turning into that phase where she's discovering who she is as a young woman and all the feelings that come with it, and but then there's also, it turns into this thriller with the whole Arnold Friend, he has intentions, but we don't know entirely what it is, and it doesn't seem to be very good. And of course, there's another element to this film where the family, Connie's family, is there's a mother that's constantly on her case. And it's, yeah, the mother's constantly nagging Connie, and like, well, you were things like there's a point in the film where the mother goes, well, you were at the mall for 4 hours, you couldn't bother to get my paint pans and rollers, because she's repainting the house. And it's like she's constantly on her case, and like, where were you, what you've been doing? I'm glad that you have time to go off to the mall every day and come back all prettied up, and yeah, just things like that. And then you have the father, played by Levon Helm, and he's just kind of he's not there. He's just not there. I mean, he constantly asks, Connie, what's the matter, kid? Where you been, kid? But he's kind of out there, and like, just doesn't care. But the outcome of this film has some stuff that we can't honestly say that's how in the real world that would turn up. because most likely Connie would have been um, because running off with a man with intentions like that, can't honestly say that he would be honest or have have good intentions. Matter of fact, the author Joyce Carol Oates, who wrote the original short story, and what was the name of the short? The short story has this big long title to it, but let me look here, see what it's. Let me see if they tell it here. Yeah, based on where are you going and where have you been. And she was inspired. She read. She wrote this story back in the 1960s and she was kind of influenced to write the story about a serial killer that she was reading about in the newspaper, who was luring these young girls who were right at the age of 15, just luring them in, and not having the good intentions with them. So that's why I say, in the real world, this movie would not. This is kind of a fake story. It's a made-up story to begin in terms of a movie, but the outcome would have much more dire consequences. Most likely, Connie would not be returning to her family. It's but when you at the end of the film, obviously Connie has had a rude awakening. That maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, I'm experiencing all these feelings and things like that, but maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I need to be more careful, because this guy, he's kind of creepy, and he's been around at this burger joint, but he followed me home, and he's got some weird dude riding in the passenger seat of this car. Yeah, and what were they going to do? And he knew, and this guy knows everything about her. Even where, literally followed her home. Knew where she lived. He knew about her friends, about her parents. He knew everything. That is a creep. Those are dangerous people to be around. It's there. I can honestly say that Arnold's intentions were not good. I mean, that's a psychopath. So this movie didn't really do much. Again, this was a little independent film from 1985, but it managed to win the jury prize at the Cannes Film Festival, I believe is what it was, back at that time. And Laura Dern was 17, 18 years old when she filmed this. and so it was an early film in her career. Uh, so it's just an interesting little movie that came out. Now, again, the box office wasn't huge, but the this is just a movie that's kind of a, you watch this and it just leaves you with this feeling that, you know, there's a lesson to be learned here. We need to be careful with the things that we say or do. And especially during this day and age of the internet. When this came out, there was no internet. It was just, there was no internet, there was no social media. And unfortunately, the social media has become the haven for creepy people. So you got to be careful with what you say, what you do, what you post, because creeps like Arnold are watching everywhere. And they don't have good intentions. So that was Smooth Talk from 1985. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about next. There may be another film, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so we just finished watching an independent film. Now I'm going to take you back to the late 1970s. This was from 1978, 1979. Actually was made in 1978 and was released here in the United States in 1979. Now, again, this was also an independent film, but it found an American distributor in Avco Embassy Pictures, which was a fairly, I don't want to say a big distributor, but it was a well-known film distributor here in the United States at the time. And this film is quite different. This film took a medium that was normally associated with children and turned it into something that was more adult commentary than we. It took a children's medium, what was associated for children's medium, and was used for adult commentary. And this film is an adaptation of a book, a very famous book at the time. And I kind of wanted to show this because recently, a couple weeks ago, on Facebook, me and a friend of mine, we had a disagreement. We didn't get heated or anything like that, but it was more of a political debate, and he recommended that I read Orwell's 1984. And I know about the premise of George Orwell's 1984, but what about this film? What about this story? And this, I think, kind of falls in the same category. It is Martin Rosen's adaptation of Richard Adams' Watership Down. Yeah, from 1979. 78, 79, because it was a British-made film, and it was released in 1978, but however, in 1979, found distribution here in the United States. This film has also now fallen into the collection of the Criterion Collection. I don't know if it's still in print or not. Check around. However, the Criterion's Janus Films has picked up distribution now. What has happened is that, and the reason why Janus Films is Criterion's distribution label, okay? And so what happens is they get the rights to these films. Now, some of these films are either independent, or they are the people who have originally distributed those films have lost the rights to them for some reason or another. And so Janus Films, when they want to put these films onto Criterion, they pick up the distribution rights. They work out a distribution deal, which includes putting it into the Criterion collection. And Watership Down, the film we just watched, Smooth Talk, it's now part of Janus Films, as well as, because coming out pretty soon is This Is Spinal Tap. For years, MGM held the rights to This Is Spinal Tap. Even though MGM did not produce or release that film, it was part of Embassy Pictures, and so as well as Watership Down, it was all part of Avco Embassy Pictures, and then they dropped the Avco name and just called it Embassy Pictures. And then it eventually went out of business, and the rights to those films ended up in the hands of MGM. But a lot of the films they lost the rights to. So Watership Down, we're going to take a look at this. Provides very social commentary using rabbits, and was very confusing at the time. And I'll explain after the flick. So this was produced, written, and directed by Martin Rosen. Interesting thing, he also was a co-producer on the last film we just watched, Smooth Talk. But this is the film, one of the films he's most noted for. He had no idea how to do animation, but we'll get into that later on. Let's see here. Yeah, from 1978, it's Watership Down, written, produced, and directed by Martin Rosen. And it has some of the very well-known British cast, including John Hurt, Richard Bryan, Michael Graham Cox, Ralph Richardson, just to name a few. So, here's Watership Down. Okay, so Watership Down tells the story about a group of rabbits who are losing their home due to man encroaching on the land. And the whole story is kind of a tale about freedom, and some of the political themes about this film were about tyranny and tyranny and freedom. So what we have in this film take place is that they're about ready to lose their homes, but however, there's this other group that's trying to control our main group of rabbits, and there's also possibly themes of overpopulation and stuff like that, and just the way they depict it kind of disturbed children at the time. This is a film that definitely gets pulled out every once in a while and gets studied. I did some research about this film since because this was released in 2015. the Criterion version. I don't know if this is still in print, so I need to correct something here. As I don't know if this is still in print. You could probably check Criterion's website if you could find a copy, but apparently in 2020 the rights changed hands or something like that, and I know in the UK there was a 4K transfer, and even Martin Rosen was sued for accusations claiming that he owned all the rights to Watership Down and had to pay a significant amount of money, and saying that he did not even own, because I guess he was even claiming that he owned the rights to the book. No, he didn't. So, but this is definitely a film that will probably be pulled out and studied for, one, the storytelling, and two, its animation. Now, it's not the best animation because everybody at the time was kind of expecting that Disney technique that was so famous associated with animation, but this was also made at a time when animation was taking on a bit more serious subject matter, and what misled Watership Down to be lumped into the category of it being a family film or a kids film was that it had the PG rating, and in the UK it caused controversy about the amount of violence that takes place in the film. Because if you watch the film with us, it's pretty violent, and there's a lot of animated blood with the rabbits and fighting, and there's death, and you know, it's stronger with it's stronger with this film than Bambi. So you're not getting Bambi with this movie. It's a bit more gruesome, and that was what was confusing for parents at the time, that they said this film was too violent for children, and even though they thought it was marketed towards children. And Martin Rosen said no, if you looked at the poster and actually read the book, you would know that this is not necessarily a children's tale. This is more of an adult story. It's just, it has some violence in it, and it's very gruesome. And this was made at a time when Disney was kind of the way out, and animation was wanting to go more adult, because you had filmmakers that were popping up, not just Martin Rosen, but you had Ralph Bakshi, who was making movies at the time. Matter of fact, Ralph Bakshi had just made 2 films. He made an adaptation of Lord of the Rings, and he did a film called Wizards, which were both PG films. But prior to that, he was making adult animated films such as Fritz the Cat, Heavy Traffic, which were hard rated R, if not rated X films. They were very adult in their story and their content. They were not afraid to use profanity. In this film we have, this was mostly a British-made movie, even though Martin Rosen is born American. He was in England at the time. I think he still lives in England. But when he made this film, he gathered the best animators in England at the time and the best British actors to perform the voice characters. We have, for the character of Hazel, we have John Hurt. Fiver is Richard Briers. Bigwig is Michael Graham Cox. Captain Holly is John Bennett. Chief Rabbit is Ralph Richardson. Blackberry, Simon Cadell. And we have Cowslip, played by Denham Elliott. If you don't know who Denham Elliott is, Indiana Jones, Marcus. So, yeah, he's in this film. And we also have Nigel Hawthorne as Captain Champion. Let's see, and it was the last film performance from Zero Mostel, who I believe he couldn't be in England at the time. Let me look up Zero Mostel here for a second, because I'm a little confused where he was from. Of course, he was in The Producers and movies like that. He was American, okay, but his last film was Watership Down, and he was in New York at the time, and he ended up recording all his dialogue in New York, while the rest were in England at Elstree Studios recording their dialogue. So, in Elstree Studios, very famous to you Star Wars fans. Well, I'm a Star Wars fan too, but that's where they filmed Star Wars as well. So, but Elstree Studios was a full-blown production facility at the time. So, but yeah, this is definitely a film that will be pulled out and studied, and the book will be read from definitely for generations, because if you're a filmmaker, I think you should definitely study it. And because this was a film that was made by a man who had no background in animation. Martin Rosen had no animation experience whatsoever, but yet he was the writer, producer, and director of this animated film. And he found out, when you direct an animated movie, you don't direct actors, you direct animators. And so when you give direction to the animator, say, hey, I want a little bit more of this in the character, well, the animator has to draw that. And not only that, you have another element in which the voice actors, so all those people who I list in the cast, like John Hurt and Zero Mostel, blah, 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 you know, who I just listed, they had to record all their dialogue ahead of time before the movie gets made. And this is what's interesting about animation, is that everything that is done in post-production for a live-action movie is done in the pre-production or production phase in an animated film. Because definitely with Disney, and I almost assume with Watership Down, they probably had cassette tape. Yeah, they probably had cassette tapes at the time. And so the actor would go and record all the dialogue and be all cut together, maybe not. And that actor's voice would be put onto a cassette tape. And then that cassette tape would make its way to the animator, the lead animator, and they would have a cassette recorder at their desk, and they would have maybe a set of headphones, and they would listen to how the actor performs the dialogue. And the nice thing about that is, you know, even with cassette tapes, is that you could stop and rewind. So you can go back and listen to it many times to get the performance right. Because if you ever see any behind the scenes footage of any animated film, you will see that animators tend to have earphones on. So that's because they're listening to dialogue. And then sometimes they don't, because they understand it. they've gotten it, you know, enough to where, you know, they don't need the recording anymore, but sometimes they go back and, you know, reference that. And so so there's that element. And like I said, this film was a very, I think the story has ended up on several of banned books list of I'm not quite sure, but it, you know, like every once in a while you'll see like Books A Million or Barnes and Noble, you know, any of those book retailers, they'll have like a special sale on quote unquote banned books when they're not entirely banned, but they were banned for various reasons, you know, culture or political or controversial or whatever the reason may be. Don't be too surprised if you see Watership Down on that list, because this was it was very much a metaphor for tyranny and freedom and you know, the dangers of being in a tyrannical society. You know, what that can lead to. So, Watership Down, I do encourage you to check it out. If you can find a copy, Amazon or Criterion's website, because that, as far as I know, for here in the United States, that who owns the rights. Like I said, I don't know if it's in print, so don't come crying to me if you can't find it. So, but as for now, I'm going to close this video out. We're going to come back for one more of the summer movie camp movies. So I think it'd be fair enough just to do it one more time. So, and then we'll close out the summer movie camp for this year at least, and we'll go back to our regularly scheduled movies. So, from me to you, see you later.